Welcome to the Nisha Jackson Show. I'm Rusty Humphries. She's Nisha Jackson. We're doing something different. You know what? I'm going to break down what they call the third wall.
Third wall.
The third wall. And that is when you're doing a show, like you're doing Seinfeld or something, right?
Seinfeld. I haven't done a Seinfeld show, but go ahead.
But you're familiar with the show.
Yes.
Okay, first you got to talk to the microphone so we can hear you.
Hi.
There you go. So Seinfeld, there really is Jerry Seinfeld, right?
Yes.
But he doesn't really live across the hall from Kramer.
Right.
Right. Okay.
Right.
So the third wall in this program would be pretending that we're doing a different show each week.
Right.
So we're going to break it down and just tell you the truth.
Right.
So basically,
I think the truth is good.
Yeah, truth is good. It doesn't ruin anything. We're just telling you.
Truth is good.
So today is Nisha's birthday. She's 34. And on her birthday today, which is New Year's Eve, and she's invited a lot of her friends into town. And we've been talking, and what I think is important is a guy that's really worked with you, not only is on a podcast, but from a professional doctor thing and friends, that you've got all these people that have been through your program.
Yes.
And instead of us just yapping about it, you actually talk to some people that have lived it.
Right.
And so we thought we'd just kind of do a few shows here of people that are friends of yours that, although would lie for you, but they're not going to.
I don't know if they would lie for me, but that's a nice thought.
You know what? That will be one of the questions when we get started.
I wouldn't want them to lie for me because then it would
No,
be,
that's
it would
just
be
because
authentic. And I'm trying to be authentic in 2020.
They don't have to. Well, that's my point. They don't have to lie for you. But if you would never ask them. But if I said, listen, I need you to lie for Nisha, they would do it because they all love you. But they're not going to do that. So I want to make that very clear.
Yes.
Okay?
I do throw a good party.
I don't know yet. Party hadn't happened yet.
The party's tonight.
What are we going to do?
Well, we have a DJ, so dancing has to be part of every party.
Yo. Okay.
Dancing has to be part of it. And we're going to have really good food. And we have games. I have a little speech. I have a speech I'm going to say.
Does it include the words 7 years ago? Because that's always a good one.
No.
That's like a hit.
No, but I wanted, since I have so many friends that have driven, I mean, the guest that we have today drove 13 hours to get to this party. And I'm really excited that they're here, and they have been treated by me in the past, husband and wife. And he had a pretty traumatic situation happen in his life, and I thought it would be great physically happen. It was an accident. I thought it would be really nice for us to interview him, because one of the things that I'm very passionate about is helping people age better with less age-related illnesses. And one of the ways that you do that is you get your body strong and you get your body balanced, so that if you have an accident, you can come back from that accident stronger and better. But you can't do that if your system is completely broken down at the time of the accident. Mm-hmm. So he's such a perfect example of that, because he's a little older, and in great shape, and has followed my program for a long time. And I just thought it would be nice to interview him.
So let's talk a little bit behind his back. Who is he and what happened?
He's a really good friend of mine. He owned a scuba diving shop in Southern Oregon, where I lived for many years.
Because when you think scuba diving, you think Southern Oregon.
Yeah.
Well, I guess there is the ocean there, right?
Rivers.
Okay.
I wouldn't dive in them, but there are rivers. And I had a very, very traumatic diving accident many years ago. I drowned in Cabo.
What?
I did. We should talk about that at some point. And it was a really, really, really bad accident. And I shouldn't have survived the accident, but I did. And I subsequently found out that I had something called idiopathic pulmonary edema, which means that when you go to certain depths of the ocean or certain altitudes, if you ascend or descend too rapidly, your lungs can't accommodate. And so they fill up with fluid and you suffocate to death. You drowned in your own fluids.
Oh my, and you had no idea. And one day you're
idea.
Just swimming, you're scuba diving, and all of a sudden you can't breathe.
I dove down too fast. I got to 68 feet under the ocean going into a cave, and I stopped breathing. I couldn't breathe at all. No, I couldn't exchange air. Anyway, I won't get into that whole story.
That's a good one, though. Okay, thank you. Good.
So many, many years later, maybe 10 years later, Robert heard about my story, who is our guest coming on, and he asked if I wanted to dive again. And he had researched my problem and asked if I wanted to get back in the water. And I love the water and I love water sports. So I said, sure. And so we worked together, and I got all the right equipment and really understood the syndrome. And there's just like 5 or 6 things that you have to do to make sure you don't drown again. And we started doing them, but I got to know him because he has a home in the Baja, and I needed to dive in warm water, which is one of the things you have to do with the syndrome. You have to dive in warm water. Darn. Can't dive in cold water. And anyway, so we were fast friends and have dove a lot together, and he's kind of my guardian angel under the water.
Okay. And what was his accident? That is amazing. What was his accident that got you to help him?
Well, he actually had an accident. He was remodeling his garage, a very large, very tall garage at his home in Brookings, Oregon. And we'll let him tell part of the story, but he was putting down some boards over a pull-down attic, and he slipped, and he went head first through the pull-down attic, ping-ponged his way down the staircase, all the way down a pull-down staircase from the ceiling, and landed headfirst on a concrete floor.
Oh my gosh.
And nobody was there to help him. His cell phone was still up the stairs. And even though he broke all of his ribs loose from his spinal column, literally just loosened up his entire rib cage from his spinal column, broke all his ribs, and had a brain bleed and many other injuries, he climbed back up the staircase to get his phone because it was the only way he was going to be able to contact his wife to come and get him and take him to the emergency room. So anyways, a very traumatic accident. So I want to bring him on to talk more about, like, what did we do to get him back, and why was his health in the state that he was in prior to the accident? Why is that so important for recovery? Because I think it's something everybody should hear.
All right. Now, before we get him, I want to remind you to please subscribe to this podcast right now. Subscribe, whether it's on YouTube or Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, wherever you find the show. That's very important. And make sure you write down nishajackson.com, so you can find out more on how Nisha can work with you. So let's bring in Robert
and Christy is
bringing Robert and Christy here on the Nisha Jackson Show.
All right. So here we are with Robert, my friend Robert. And Robert, come over here just a little bit so we can see your face more. And this is his beautiful wife, Christy. And they're both scuba diving friends of mine, as I was telling you a little bit earlier in the show. And I just wanted to, Robert, say how old you are. I know you don't want to, but please do anyway, because he looks amazing. If he stood up, you would see he's got a great physique too.
Well, I'm 73.
He's 73 years old. And I just told you about his accident, falling through the staircase, landing on his head, brain subarachnoid bleed. Two brain bleeds. How many bones did you break?
All the ribs on the left side, all the vertebrae off on the left side, collarbone on the left side. Most all the damage was on the left side. So
that's kind of from ping-ponging his way down the staircase, I believe, and then crawling back up the staircase to get your phone.
that was an issue. Right?
I think one of the it's not nothing about this is funny, but he did call his wife when he got his phone at Christy. And she's in the house, but the house is like 200 feet away or 300 feet away, 350 feet away from the garage that they were in. And he called Christy and he says, Christy, can you please come out here, or can you come out here now? And she says, do I need to come out now? So anyway, she did, because he said yes, and he never asked for help. And so she came bolting out to help him, and they took him to
the hospital in Crescent City, which is a little town northern California,
yes,
just south of the Oregon border. And from there, because of the trauma to my brain and back of my neck, at that point it was above the level they could handle, so they flew me to Redding, and to a really nice boutique hospital in Redding.
Redding, California. So as I said earlier, I wanted to talk to you, all of you that are listening today, about why it's so important. Robert is a very active 73-year-old. He does not let anything stop him. He takes really good care of himself. His wife is a health expert. She's a health expert amateur, right? Because she reads everything. She's super smart. She's a pharmacist, and so she is always keeping Robert on the right path, and they do everything I tell him to do. But they both do. They do. They take really good care of themselves. And I wanted
for a number of years.
Yes, for many years.
Just didn't start.
Yes.
I mean, we've been friends 25. We've been early friends because of our children.
Yes.
At St. Mary's High School, and
Yes.
so this is 25 years in that
Yes.
range. I don't know,
Yes.
maybe somewhere around there.
And the great thing about him that I believe really helped him, there were a lot of things that kind of came together to help him rehabilitate, because he actually probably shouldn't be alive.
Right.
And I believe that he not only staying in good shape and taking his health, both of them taking their health seriously throughout the years, but you were also hormonally balanced. He's been on testosterone, and he takes that very seriously and keeps his level optimized. And Christy's always helping him with his supplements. And I think that that's one of the most important things as men age, to stay not only hormonally optimized, but keeping your diet clean. You're not perfect. None of us are perfect, but you do take most of your diet seriously and take being hormonally balanced serious. Like, you understand the benefits of being balanced hormonally, meaning that his testosterone is optimized.
And I think it's easier for me because I have a plan.
Yes.
I mean, it's just not something we start and stop. We have a plan. We've done this for a number of years and developed the plan. Really?
Yes.
Some of the early challenges were PSA.
Right.
And I had some issues with prostate.
Yes.
And you kind of, through research, went out on a limb different than what was in the literature at the time and said, we're going to bring down your PSA numbers with more testosterone, not less.
Yes.
And that
we're going public with that information.
Well, I can tell you it works. And my friends that have had these kind of issues that have followed this regiment, your regiment, it's worked for them also.
Yeah.
So, which is different than if you go to your urologist, typically they're going to say exactly the opposite.
Right. And things are starting to come around now, which is great, starting to come around to really show that testosterone is quite beneficial for the prostate as men age. But anyway, so one of the things that Robert took very seriously after the accident was staying on his plan, eating well. We put him on very large doses of fish oil. We kept your testosterone going. We kept your supplements going. And I put him on a series of injections that Christy gave him at home. We did a combination of high-dose vitamin C. We also did magnesium injections, high-dose B complex. We did glutathione, which is a healing antioxidant that's amazing for anyone that's had an injury or is trying to come back from the sickness. And so I really believe it was a combination of going into this accident being strong and balanced, but especially at 73, because many people can't come back from something like that at 73.
Right.
So,
well, I think it's the way you approached it after the accident. Once I was released from Reading and got back to Medford, then I came to the office and we did injections for 3 days in a row, waited 3 days, I think, did them again. And then you put together those concoctions, whatever we could call them.
Vitamins and nutrients, yes.
Nutrients. And at that point, Christy could inject it. But first of all, there was, and I mention that because I heard Rusty say in a prior podcast, is it beneficial to come to the office and get injections in the beginning? And I thought that was an interesting question because of my experience and know how we got those levels after I got out of the hospital to where we got them.
Right.
And then I started, then Christy was able to, handle it.
One of the things I think, Robert, about the injections that's interesting, because that was just one part of his healing process. But when your body is stressed, one of the things that it doesn't do well is digest well. Because when you're in a stress state, you actually don't digest well and you don't absorb the nutrients as well as you should. And so obviously his whole system was stressed. He was on medication. He was just trying to get back. And it was very painful and very stressful for him. I can't even imagine how bad the pain was. but taking nutrients and putting them into your muscle so they absorb 100% in the muscle, as opposed to having to go through the digestive tract that maybe wasn't working as well at that particular time, is so much more powerful for healing than just saying, hey, take some extra vitamin C and we'll see you in 6 months. It just works so much better. So that was one of the things we did. But I just appreciate also 2 other things about you, Robert. One is, and I know Christy appreciates this too, is that you're such a good example of when something bad happens, you just keep going, and you're just not going to let it harm you. It's not going to slow you down, and it's certainly not going to stop you. And I think the mind is so powerful when it comes to overcoming something that's tragic, whether it be an emotional tragedy or a physical accident like you had.
I think that's a good point, because you know what, at that point, I didn't have any choice but to start healing.
But everybody has a choice, and you chose the positive, I'm going to get better outlook.
Well, maybe because I talked to you from the hospital that night, and you say, okay, I'll be ready.
Yeah.
And so it's help too. It's just not a matter of, me deciding I'm going to get better. Right. It's being able to ask for help and at that point follow the advice. And that's what's so important, is to, and as you said, thanks to Christy, as a pharmacist, she's pretty good at keeping me on the right path.
It is helpful to have somebody. That's why I love treating partners together, because I think that they can support each other in their mission to stay healthy as they age. It's really important, and they can share with each other how much better they're feeling and why it's important, especially because it's always inevitable. It seems that one person falls off the tracks, like, I haven't taken my supplements in 2 weeks. And it's really good to help each other, support each other through that process of just staying healthy as you age. But I'm so glad you're here, because I feel, Robert, you gave me my life back with diving.
Oh, yeah.
Really encouraged me. I told the story prior to you coming in here, and I just really appreciate that you gave me that back, and I'm so happy that I was able to help you also.
Well, I'm happy about that also. and the fact that, what you've done for me in the way of setting up, I don't know a better word for a plan, right? No, and at that point, it's not hard to follow it once you get it, once you understand why and what you're doing.
Yes.
And you know what? I do the testosterone, that's important, but also it's the other supplements and minerals and things that are important and then I love every 6 months, typically I do, because we go back and forth from Mexico and we're gone a lot, it's just, I just look forward to getting the next set of numbers to see once we do the blood test.
I know.
PSA was 2.3 yesterday, 2 days ago.
I know.
I mean, that compared to just a few years ago when it was almost 10, which is
you've
really
come
high.
a long way.
Yeah, and it's every time it's just interesting to see what those numbers are. It becomes addictive, and it is fun.
Well, there's never a time when you shouldn't be aspiring for something better, no matter how old you are. And I'm really glad that you guys are here today, not only for the party and for the celebration, thank you, but also just to encourage all of you, if you are, no matter how old you are, if you're wanting to be better as you get older and be able to protect your body, this is one of the things you can do, is have your levels checked, see where you're at, get on a plan, like Robert's talking about, get on a plan and stay on the plan. And just watch, every year you get stronger and you get better. But the greatest thing is that you age with less age-related illnesses. And one of my favorite slogans is, aging is optional. It really is optional. And how you age is very optional. So it's a great thing to be able to have and to be able to carry out for ourselves.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Thank you for everything.
Do you have a book, Nisha?
Oh, yes. I have a book.
Right behind you.
I don't know. Oh, it's right in front of me. A book, yes. We talk a lot about in this book about the plan, and many people who don't want to do the hormone analysis or don't want to do the lab in a box that we offer, you can go to this book, and every chapter is a different part of the body that you can take care of and really understand what you can do to get balanced.
What's it called?
It's called Brilliant Burnout. They probably can't read it backwards.
Where can I get it? What website should I go to?
You can get this on any online website. Amazon's probably the easiest place to order, or you can go to my website, nishajackson.com. Have a great.
Jackson.com.
Okay, we're done. We're done.
That's it for the show. We'll see you next time. Thanks for being here. And that's Nisha Jackson. And we'll see you next time. Subscribe to the podcast, The Nisha Jackson Show. See you next time.